ونستغفره نعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد ألا إن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة كل ضلالة في النار. As we continue the chapter Kitaab At-Tawheed entitled Bab al-Shafa'ah, the chapter of the intercession, we start 6:52 p.m. November the 18th, 2018, the degrees on the Islamic calendar of Rabi' al-Awwal. As we know, Rabi' al-Awwal. The monthly on the Islamic calendar, the month is named Rabi' al-Awwal. Rabi' al-Awwal. 1440 after the migration of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is technically the 11th night. Technically, even though it says the 10th on your calendars, it's technically the 11th night of Rabi' al-Awwal. فَيَا مَعَشَ الْإِخْوَةِ, as we continue in Bab al-Shafa'ah, and we finish the ayat of which the great Imam Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab that he mentioned, given the reality of the Shafa'ah. The majority of those you'll find that went astray in this chapter from the Muslimun are the Sufiya, as they are the ones who have mixed up this matter and fell into polytheism in regards to it. The Sufiya, which I'll speak about probably this Friday in the chapter, or in the coming lessons on Friday in South Philadelphia. As I'll go in depth about how the Sufiya and the different sects and the different type of turuq that there are. Because there are different sects from the Sufiya. You have the Shadhiliya, you have Tijaniya, you have Qadiriya, or Qadianiya, or Qadiriya is Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, or they call him Jailan, or they call Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, or the Qadiriya. You have Tijaniya, you have Naqshbandiya, you have Baralawiya. Some of them are in the fold of Islam and some of them aren't. Some of them are, some of them aren't. There are some from the extremists of the Sufiya who believe in some very extremely strange things. Things that you'll find that from the history of it, it's as if they combined Buddhism along with other things. Tried to combine Islam along with Buddhism. It's some mystical type of way of thinking, of having these false realities in one's mind, and other different absolutely weird things, to the point where you think it's totally other than the religion of Islam. But we don't have time to talk about the Sufiya and their history. And I think I gave some of the examples of about a month ago when I was speaking about the grave in Egypt, of what happened with who? Who was the person I was speaking about last month in Egypt, the grave? Al-Badawi. As you'll find, Badawi is a famous grave, it's a famous maqbara in Egypt, in Misr. And you find that the people that also worship the grave and they go around the grave and they glorify the grave. And you'll find, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, of what happened with Al-Badawi, where he even himself used to do some strange things. All of them is from the turuq of Sufiya, which I'll talk about next week, inshallah, to go a little bit more in depth about it. But know for those different sects from the Sufiya, they are the ones who fell into misguidance in regards to this chapter. From the different sects in all the different countries, like you said, the Tijaniya, or from the Shadiliya, were real prevalent, especially Morocco, in that region. And the Tijaniyas in Africa and Liberia, they follow, you'll find, especially in Sudan and in Liberia. The things of those countries, they are more Tijani. They go to the turuq or the Sufiya of Tijaniya. And you have the Qadiriyya, as we say, who even from their Sufis here in America, that say that they follow Abdul Qadir Jilani. That's also from a different sect from the Sufiya. And you'll find that they say it's permissible to make dua to Allah, especially from the followers of Hamzah Yusuf, who glorifies one of the biggest Sufis of these days and times, who's Habib Ali al-Jifri. I don't know if you probably heard of him. His name is Habib Ali al-Jifri. He's from the extremists of the Sufiya, where you'll find that he said his dua is permissible to make dua to the Prophet sallallahu. They say it's permissible to make dua to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, his name was Habib Ali al-Jifri, who's from the extremists of the Sufiya. And that is who Hamzah Yusuf, you'll find that he cooperates with, the likes of Habib Ali al-Jifri. And these are the people who they have said that they want to revise the Turuq al-Sufiya, in which we'll talk about, inshallah, in more details about this. How the Turuq al-Sufiya are the main ones of those who mix up in this affairs of the Shafa'ah. And the ways of the Sufiya is as if it's a religion in totally contrast to what the Prophet ﷺ came with. If I was to break down some of the most strangest things that they used to do, things and statements and actions that are totally in contrast to what the Messenger of Allah ﷺ came with, especially in a book entitled Talbis Iblis by Ibn al-Jawzi. And there's a tremendous book called Hadihi His Sufiya. That's one of the most tremendous refutations in Sufiya, which is called This is Sufiya by Sheikh Abdul Wakil. Excuse me for a second. No. You have a lot of books of refutations against the Sufis, but from them it's called Masra' At-Tasawwuf. Masra' At-Tasawwuf by Burhan al-Din Ibn Ibrahim Ibn Umar al-Biqa'i. Masra' Al-Sufiya, which was checked by Sheikh AbdurRahman al-Wakil. It's called Masra' Al-Sufiya, At-Tasawwuf. And you'll find that from the ultimate goal from Sufis, for all of them, their ultimate goal is to believe in the belief of Wahdatul Wujud, the belief that Allah is incarnated, whereas He's unified with the creation, and the creation is unified with Allah. That's the ultimate goal of the Sufis, to be in this manner. And this is their ultimate goal, to be like their main greatest sheikh, who they say about him, Ibn Arabi al-Ta'i, who's the Ra'is of Wahdatul Wujud, as Shaykh al-Islam said, who said about him, he came with kufr, not even the kuffar the Quraysh came with. But ultimately the Sufis, this is their goal, is to be like what? Is to be like Ibn Arabi al-Ta'i. That he is the one that they want to what? Ultimate aim is to be like him. Wa alaykum as-salam wa rahmatullah. Their ultimate aim is to be like him, who's the Ra'is Wahdatul Wujud. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? And one of the most greatest refutations against the Sufiya is Hadihi His Sufiya by Sheikh AbdurRahman al-Wakil, rahimahullah. His name is AbdurRahman al-Wakil. And he entitled هذه هي الصوفية. And he clarifies it and brings a lot of statements of the Sufis and who they want to be ultimately who they want to be ultimately like, and who they want to be like, who's their Shaykh al-Akbar, who they call him, the greatest Shaykh, who's Ibn Arabi, who said in his poetry, Ar-Rabbu Abdun wal-Abdu Rabbi, Ar-Rabbu Abdun wal-Abdu Rabbun wa-layta shi'ri man al-Mukallaf. He said that the Lord is the slave, the servant, and the servant is Allah. He says, so how can a person be burdened with the duties that are, or the obligations that are bonded upon him, meaning they're raised off of him? See how people's face, they're like, what? That's only the beginning. If I was to really tell you some of the certain things that they say, the certain things they have done in stories, one of the Sufis stood up on a minbar and said, I swear, I testify there's no deity except Iblis. I could go stories after stories after stories after stories about the Sufis. Stories after stories after stories. But at any rate, this is entitled هذه هي الصوفية by Shaykh Abdurrahman al-Wakil, who praised this book was from the Imam of Ahl Sunnah, who's Shaykh Ahmed Najmi. Shaykh Ahmed Najmi, rahimahullah, praised this book. He praised it. If I can show it to everyone, right here. This is the praise of Shaykh Ahmed Najmi in his book, right here. Shaykh Ahmed Najmi praised it, where he even said, when the Shaykh Abdurrahman al-Wakil, Ra'is Ansar al-Sunnah, back in those days. It's not Ansar al-Sunnah anymore in Egypt, but back in those days. He said, Ansar al-Sunnah بمصر سابقا كتاب صغير الحجم عظيم الفائدة اقتنيته قبل السنوات ولما قرأته كتبت عليه هذه العبارة وإني لأعدها من صالح عملي وهذه هي العبارة. He said that this was Shaykh Abdurrahman al-Wakil, the president of Ansar al-Sunnah in Egypt, previously or before. He said that the book is small in its size, but it's tremendous in its benefit. He said, Rahimakallah, Shaykh Ahmed Najmi made dua for me. He said, may Allah have mercy upon you, Abdurrahman. This is when he was alive, of course. لَقَدْ سَجَّلْتَ حَقًّا فِي هَذَا الْكِتَابِ. Verily, you have written something that's the truth in this book. And he says, and you expose the curtain that is lied upon the truth. He says, with those تِلْكُمُ الْأَصْنَامِ الْجَوْفَاءِ التي كانت وما زالت بقاياها تخذف أخبث الكفر وأقذره. He said that in this book you have exposed the curtain. Listen what he says. He called them asnam. He called them those idols, those empty idols, in which it was and it's still, its remnants is propagating the most despicable and wicked of kufr and the most filthiest of it. And they say that this is exactly what Tawheed is. To the end of what he praised at this book, entitled in this book, which, like I said in detail, I'll go into it later. This is not the time for it. But if I tell you some of the stuff that they would do, from the filthiest of things, filthiest. Like I told you, one of them stood in the middle of the minbar and said, I bear witness that none has the right to be worshipped except shaitan. And all you have to do is read Hamzah Yusuf and him praising and encouraging his followers to read the Burda al-Busayri, which is a poetry filled with polytheism. Not only shirk and ibadah, polytheism and rububiyyah. Not just polytheism in the aspect of uluhiyyah. That was the kufr of the kuffar Quraysh during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. The followers of Hamzah Yusuf is telling his followers to read the Burda al-Busayri, which contains shirk and rububiyyah. That's something not even the kuffar of Quraysh fell into. And this is who's encouraging the people to read. And they say that this is Islam and this is Tawheed. Thousands and thousands of people are misled by him. And Allah knows best. Allahu alam, you'll find that the majority of these people, I wouldn't be surprised that they're funded by the kuffar. They're funded by the non-Muslims to keep the Muslims at bay and to keep them weak. Because as long as the Muslims are practicing shirk, they're in the most weakest state there is. As long as the Muslims are practicing bid'ah and shirk and polytheism and innovative practices, then they're in their weakest form, right or wrong? They're in the weakest state. So to keep them at bay, Allah knows best, they receive funding from the non-Muslims. They pay him to mislead the Muslims and keep them at bay and keep them what? Keep them weak. Because the ultimate power of the Muslims comes from their unification upon what is correct and the correct creed. But once you've polluted that, you render them in the most evil, wicked, and weakest state. Is it clear? But inshallah, we'll talk about that later. But these are two books that even the great Imam, Sheikh Muhammad Amal Jami, even suggested these books. And when I heard it in a recording a couple of years ago, I ran over to Saudi and I bought both of them. And alhamdulillah, Mirath al-Anbiya printed these books. Mirath in Jeddah printed two of the best books and refutations against the Sufi. There are other books and there are great refutations against the Sufi, for example, by the great Imam, Sheikh Hamoud al-Tuwajiri. Sheikh Hamoud al-Tuwajiri, we called it Ar-Radd al-Baligh ala al-Tahdiri min Jama'at al-Tabligh. Another book from the Imam of Ahl Sunnah these days, his name was Hamoud al-Tuwajiri, rahimahullah. And he entitled the book Ar-Radd al-Baligh. Ar-Radd al-Baligh fi al-Tahdiri min Jama'at al-Tabligh, I think is his name. He said, Ar-Radd al-Baligh, he says a tremendous refutation in warning against Jama'at al-Tabligh. I have it at home. I have that book too. That's also a tremendous book in refuting the Sufiya from the modern day time scholars and from Ahl Sunnah, and also from those who are from Ansar al-Sunnah years ago, not now, but years ago. Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Wakil, who Sheikh Ahmed Najmi praised this book called Hadihi Sufiya, and also Sheikh Muhammad Amal Jami praised these books called Masra' al-Tasawwuf by al-Biqa'i, who Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Wakil checked, which is another book with a good refutation against the Sufiya. And this one, Hadihi Sufiya, who Sheikh Ahmed Najmi praised, and Sheikh Muhammad Aman Jami praised likewise. And I told you the praise of Sheikh Ahmed Najmi is in the front of this book. We actually praised the book, Hadihi Sufiya, by Sheikh Abdurrahman al-Wakil. And this book is tremendous. Tremendous book. In the Arabic, it's a very high level too. It's a very, very high level of eloquence that he used in refuting them. But at any rate, if you was to read some of the filthiest of things, you would think this is a religion that was totally in contrast. It was as if it's a totally different religion. Sufi is as if it's a totally different religion. And you got to realize that they propagate ignorance. They keep their followers ignorant of what's the usul of Ahl Sunnah. Because if you look to the establishment of Sufiya, they used to think that the reasons of why the Ummah was broken up was because of knowledge. They claim knowledge and dunya. That's the reason why the Sufis left it off. The majority of them are aesthetics that abstain from what? Worldly things and what? Knowledge. So they say, no, the prime factor, what we do, we just work. We just do actions. That's why you see the majority of them are what? You'll find that they're aesthetics, and they'll leave their families for long periods of time. Of what we know from Jama'at al-Tabligh, I'm sure for people who are familiar with, they'll go out for how many days? 30 days, over 30 days, or 40 days. 40 days, abandon their families. All this in the name of so-called giving da'wah upon ignorance. And which, like I told everyone, we'll discuss more in detail because it gets more in depth than that. But at any rate, the point I'm trying to make is, everyone, the point I'm trying to make here, everyone, is that the Sufis are the main ones that were misguided in this what? In this affair. And keep in mind, the ultimate goal of every Sufi is to be like their greatest sheikh, who is Ibn Arabi, At-Ta'i, which is the head of what? Of the belief of Wahdatul Wujud. Wahdatul Wujud, meaning Allah is one with the creation, and the creation is one with Allah. Allah Ta'ala is incarnated in the creation, and the creation is in Allah. That's their ultimate goals, to be like him. Rather, you'll find that the majority of the Sufis, that they call him their Shaykh al-Akbar, their greatest Shaykh, a Shaykh al-Akbar they call him. And you'll find that he has books of kufr, as Shaykh al-Islam talked and described them. He said books filled with kufr that not even the kuffar Quraysh fell into. In his book called Al-Fusus, Al-Futuhat al-Islamiyya, and his book called Al-Fusus, Fusus al-Hikam, I think it's called Fusus al-Hikam or Hikam Al-Fusus, with a fa, not with a fa, Sad, wow, Sad, Fusus. I think it's called Fusus al-Hikam or Fusus. In his book called Futuhat al-Islamiyya, He said that those books are filled with things of kufr, not even the kuffar Quraysh fell into. And that's to let you know how despicable of what the Sufis are upon. And if you was to refute them with knowledge, they can't refute you. You know all they will say to you? All they will say is, you filthy Wahhabi. That's what the majority of the deviant sects say these days. They just call you filthy Wahhabis. Okay, you could call me what you want, but argue, scholastic-based, knowledge-based refutation has been made against you. And criticism that's been made to show that you pose Kitaab and Sunnah. So come back and defend your position if you're upon what's correct. No, the only thing they'll say is, you filthy Wahhabi, that's it. So that proves anything? Just because you call somebody a nickname? Just because you call somebody a nickname doesn't mean you have proved or established anything. So inshallah, bi'idhnillah, like we said, ya ma'ashar al-ikhwa, that's just to let everyone know. And I'll take a set in more in depth. I'll discuss this matter Friday, inshallah, in South Philadelphia. طيب, as we go back to the book, you'll find that Abu al-Abbas, and we said, who's Abu al-Abbas, everyone? Ahmed ibn Halim, Ahmed Abdul Halim ibn Abdul Salam al-Dimashqi, from Damascus, al-Dimashqi al-Harrani, Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah. That he said that Allah Ta'ala, that he cut off all the connections of the mushrikeen with the shafa' of polytheism in general, As he says, that Allah Ta'ala that فَنَفَى أَن يَكُونَ لِغَيْرِهِ مِلْكٌ أَوْ قِسْطٌ مِّنْهُ, that Allah Ta'ala that he negated from other than him milk or mulk, that anyone is the owner of anything, or that he shares in that, or a portion of it. Alhamdulillah. He says that he shares in a portion that anyone other than Allah owns anything in this kingdom, or his sovereignty, or in him tabarak wa ta'ala in this existence. That Allah is the full owner of it, number one. Or that he shares in some of it with someone other than him, that which is also what? Negated. Or that Allah tabarak wa ta'ala what? Has a helper in it. Or Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, excuse me, I'm sorry everyone. That he also likewise has a one that shares in it. That means the portion that's in your books. The third, and then the fourth is that he will what? Have a helper. Like we talked about before, if you wanted something from someone and you wanted to get it from them, firstly, number one, it has to be in their what? In their ownership. Number two, if it's not in their ownership, then maybe perhaps they what? Maybe they share in it with someone. If they don't share in it, then what? Maybe they help in it. And if they don't help in it, then maybe perhaps they can what? Maybe lead you to or aid you in getting it. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what? Negated all four levels. That only thing of what is asked, especially in the shafa'ah, shall only be asked from Allah ta'ala based upon the fact that he cut off all these levels. So being that the case, he is the only one that you ask this from, because he is the absolute complete owner of it, and no one shares in it with him, and no one is a partner with him in it, and no one also no one aids him in it or helps him in it, and there's no one that can intercede except by his permission. So Allah Ta'ala cut off all the roots of polytheism, that no one in this existence conducts besides him Ta'ala, on all levels, whether it be the owner, or whether it be or someone share, or someone aid, or if someone wants to what? Intercede. Which that is the greatest levels of anything that's in this existence. Right now, if you wanted to buy something from someone, you would go to them, knock on the door. Can I buy this off of you? And that individual said, I don't own it. And then the person said, well, who's your partner with? I don't have no partner in it. Nor can I what? Nor that nobody aids me in it. Well, can you help me get it? I can't do that either. There's nothing left. So you would have to look for the absolute one that has the sole what? Ownership of it. So in this affair, like we said, is the shafa'ah. And this is why Allah Ta'ala laid down the truth in this regard. You'll find in the next text, and we'll read the next ones real quickly. It says on the authority of Abu Hurairah, this is where we start. Man as'ad an-nas bi shafa'atika ya Rasulullah. He said, Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, he said, O Messenger of Allah, who will be the most successful and the most happiest of those with your shafa'ah, with your intercession? So this is another hadith to show what, everyone? That there will be a shafa'ah. That there will be a what? There will be a shafa'ah. The luckiest, the most fortunate. I would say that's more closer to a better meaning. To say that's more, who will be the happiest of people. The most happiest. As'ad an-nas. I don't want to say luckiest, that's a bad translation. Luckiest. Say that was, yeah, that's a terrible translation. Well, I would say the most happiest. Who will be the most happiest of the people? Your shafa'ah. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, those who said La ilaha illallah sincerely from his heart. And that shafa'ah is only for Ahl al-Ikhlas. By the permission of Allah, وَلَا تَكُونُ لِمَنْ أَشْرَكَ بِاللَّهِ. And it will not be for those who set up partners with Allah. Then he goes on to say, وَحَقِيقَتُهُ, that Allah Ta'ala, He is the one that has bestowed His virtue upon the people of Ikhlas. And He will forgive them بِوَاسِطَةِ دُعَى مَنْ أَذِنَ لَهُ. And He will forgive them, He says, by way or by the method of the dua of the one who Allah will give permission for to intercede, in order to honor him and in order for him to attain what they call the maqam al-mahmud, their high status, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give the shafi', the one who's interceding, who is Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَالشَّفَاعَةَ الَّتِي نَفَاهَا, the Quran, as it goes on to say, if you read in your books, the shafa'ah that has been negated here in the Quran is what has in it polytheism. And it's been affirmed by the permission of Allah in a lot of places. And the message of Allah is clarified that the shafa'ah is only for the people of Tawheed and the people of Ikhlas. And that is the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah. If you go back, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, notice he also said the hadith in the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, where he says when the message of Allah will prostrate under the arsh. It talks a little bit of that hadith. We discussed in last class. If you turn your page back a little bit. He says that the shafa'ah will not benefit except for who Allah will give permission for. كما قال ولا يشفعون إلا لمن ارتضى, that they do not intercede except for the one who He is pleased with. He said, for this shafa'ah in which the mushrikun had thought is correct, is been negated on the day of resurrection, meaning it will be removed. Just as the Quran negated it. And a messenger of Allah informed that he will come and he will make prostration to Allah and praise Him. So notice it says in the statement with Shaykh al-Islam, as he goes on to say, that the message of Allah will not start with the shafa'ah first. You reading this in your books? The message of Allah, sit next to him. Sit next to him, go on the other side of him. You got the speaker blocking you. No, you go to him. He has the book in his hand. You telling him to give you the book and you want him to sit over where you at. You don't have a book? Oh. It says that the message of Allah will not start with the shafa'ah first. Then it will be said after Allah, that the message of Allah is given granted permission, raise your head. Say it will be heard, ask it will be given, intercede, your intercession will be granted. Did you see everyone? So you know Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, what does he mention here? He mentions that the shafa'ah, firstly he talks about all the levels of polytheism. On all levels. Then nothing is left of all the levels of polytheism that has been cut except the shafa'ah. So then Abu al-Abbas, Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah goes on to say, he says, فَلَا يَشْفَعُونَ إِلَّا لِمَنْ يَرْتَضَى إِلَّا لِمَنْ يَرْتَضَى فَهَذِهِ الشَّفَاعَةِ التي يظنها المشركون هي منتفية يوم القيامة. that these mushrikun thought is correct, that it's been negated on the day of resurrection and been removed. And the Messenger of Allah will come on the day of resurrection and prostrate to Allah. Meaning that the Messenger of Allah himself still has to be what? Given permission. That he will not be able to intercede for anyone directly. It starts, number one, by the permission of Allah first. As he will be called, and he will make sujood, and he will prostrate. So it shows that he will have to what? He will be praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, and Allah inspiring him with those praises that he was not inspired with here in this dunya. As the Messenger of Allah will make sujood under the arsh on the day of resurrection for a very long time. Then it will be said, raise your head. Some of Ahl Ilm say that will be Allah, that will be Allah Ta'ala saying this statement in your books. Same meaning, raise your head. Muhammad, as it says here, Ar-Razzaaq, wasal tu'ta washfa' tushaffa'. Raise your head, ask, it will be what? Granted. Sal tu'ta, ask, it will be given. Intercede, your intercession will be what? It will be granted. Some say that if it's an angel that will call out and say that. Some of them saying that it is what? Allah who will say that. There is a narration that frankly says that Allah Ta'ala will say this. There is a narration. But the actual checking of it needs to be checked, and I have to check it because it's been a long time. But at any rate, so it's either that Allah will call out and say this, if that narration is authentic, and if not, then it will be an angel that will call out and say this. For one of the two. If the narration has been authenticated, then we say that it is Allah that says that will say this. To say the statement, O Muhammad, raise your head, ask, it will be granted, ask will be given, intercede, your intercession will be granted. So notice that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ will still have to be granted what? Permission, even though he's alive. So the shafa'ah will start, and the Messenger of Allah now will be alive again. And not only that, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ will have to be given what? Permission by Allah to start the intercession. So it says, وَقَالَ أبو هريرة, who is the most happiest of the people with your shafa'ah? Until the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had explained and said, to who will be the most happiest of people with the shafa'ah? The one who said, La ilaha illallah, khalisan min qalbih. So that means that the shafa'ah is only for the people of what? Monotheism and Tawheed. That's it. And it is not for anyone that sets up partners with Allah. Not for anyone. And the true reality of it is that Allah Ta'ala will bestow His bounty upon the people of Ikhlas. And He will forgive them by way of dua of the one who Allah will give permission for to intercede. The intercession, ya ma'ash al-ikhwa, a person might ask, what is the reason for the intercession? If Allah already has total knowledge and awareness of who Allah Ta'ala wants to forgive, and of who Allah Ta'ala wants to punish, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us for those who forgive in this world and hereafter. What's the reason for the shafa'ah? Allah could just forgive them and not need a shafa'ah, because we know that Allah doesn't need any intercession. We said, and I answered this before, we said that the reason for the shafa'ah, number one, is only to show the high honor, or to honor the shafi', the one who's interceding, to show his high status and high level with Allah. So it's ikram li shafi', as we know. It's to give honor to the one who's interceding. That's number one. It's only to show the high honor, due to the fact that we know that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam, in the authentic hadith in which he will be given the maqam al-mahmud, the permission to give, or the permission to intercede, or the greatest intercession, as we said, which is called the shafa'atul uzma. And it says in the narration, الَّذِي يَغْبِطُ فِيهِ الْأَوَّلُونَ وَالْآخِرُونَ. He says, in which the first of the people and the last of the people will have ghibta for. What's ghibta? Ghibta is a type, ghibta is not jealousy, but it's a type of what you will want to have. But you don't wish that that blessing go away from someone. You have two types of they call it jealousy generally, but it's not jealousy. You have what they call ghibta, and you have hasad. Ghibta is when you will want to have what somebody has. You will wish to have what you will want to have what they have, whether it be knowledge or what have you. Especially if when the Messenger of Allah highly said that there's no hasad except in two affairs. He said number one is the man who reads the Quran, of course, and he works by it, and he does, and works in accordance to it, to the end of it. And the narration he says about the man who's been given wealth and he spends it in the cause of Allah, right? He said there's no jealousy except for that too. Notice he said except. When the Messenger of Allah ﷺ mentioned that, does that mean true envy? No. The Messenger of Allah is intending ghibta. Ghibta is that you will want to be like the individual, but you don't wish that the ni'mah goes away. Hasad, envy, is in contrast to that. You want to be like the individual, and you want to have what they have, and you wish it go away from them. That's envy. Notice in the narration of the Maqam al-Mahmud, the Prophet, it was mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ said that I will be given the Maqam al-Mahmud الذي يغبط غبطة يغبط فيه الأولون والآخرون, that the people of the first and the last will have ghibta for. Meaning that they will want to have that high level, but they don't wish that it what? Go away from the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam. So the shafa or the shafa'ah is to show honor for the what? For the shafi', no more no less. To give him honor and give him high status with Allah, just to show it. That Allah on the day of resurrection wants to show and display who has high status with him. And from them is the shufa'ah, those who will intercede. So that's to show what, everyone? Honor for them. That's number one. The second reason of the shafa'ah, in which I will test you with eventually, the second reason of the shafa'ah is for the benefit of the one who's being interceded for from the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. As the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, as we know, there will be different types of shafa'at. And we know that one of them that the Messenger of Allah clearly mentioned and said, we said, Inna shafa'ati li ahl al-kaba'ir min ummati. He said that my intercession is for the major sinners from my ummah. Is they going to need the shafa'ah? It's for the major sinners from my ummah. Ahl al-kaba'iri min ummati. Ahl al-kaba'ir meaning the people of major sins. From the people of major sins from my ummah. So that is from those who will what? Receive the shafa'ah, but they're still the people of what? Of Tawheed, of monotheism. So notice that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam had mentioned this. And what Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say, he said in this benefit, he says, فَيَنَالَ الْمَقَامِ الْمَحْمُودِ. For the shafa'ah is not from any type of benefit of Allah or benefit Allah. Rather benefits to what? The creation. Firstly, to show the high status of those who will intercede. It's number one. Number two is to also what? For those who need it will attain some type of benefit. Whereas they will be saved from the punishment of hell. They will be saved from the punishment of hell, or they will be brought out of hell if they was to enter it. And we know the only people that will come out of the hellfire is the people of Tawheed. That's it. No one a shirk will come out the hellfire. No one a polytheism will come out the hellfire. The hellfire for the people of polytheism is an eternal, what everyone? Sijnu mu'abbad. As we talked about before, it's an eternal imprisonment for them. Internal. The only people that will come out of the hellfire are the people who died upon Tawheed, who being in it momentarily, and then they will have to be purified. As we said last class, what did we say, everyone? The hellfire for the people of Tawheed is a what? It's a purification for them, not an internal imprisonment. And they will be what? Brought out. They will be removed and taken out. Keep in mind, as we said, Ya Ma'ash al-Ikhwa, that one day in the hellfire could be equal to that which is of 50,000 years. I said 70,000 meant 50,000. 50,000 years of what the Prophet ﷺ talked about the person who doesn't pay zakah. He says of what he will be punished in the hellfire, which is a day which equals 50,000 years. When Shaykh Rabi' had elaborated on this particular hadith, he said, if that's the punishment for zakat, what about the person who doesn't pray the salat? Is it clear what I'm saying? If that's the punishment for the person of zakat, what about the person who what? Doesn't pray the salah? That's a person whose punishment will be what? More than likely worse. Because the greatest of the ibadat after the shahadatain is what, everyone? Is the salah. It's the prayer, which is the pillar that comes directly after the shahadatain. So you'll find that if a person saying, oh, the hellfire, oh, it's not a big deal, I'd be a person of Tawheed, he'll be on the temporarily, he'll be brought out. No one want to spend a day in the hellfire. Not one split second. In which the Messenger of Allah had clearly said that it could be equal to the day of what? 50,000 years, and that's for the person who prevents and doesn't pay zakah. What about the person who doesn't what? Pray the salat. So whether or not we say that the person that left off salat, whether or not he's a kafir or not, you wouldn't want to be in either circumstance. You understand? Because the person that doesn't pray is either in the hellfire. You'll find Sheikh Rabir, when he said about this, he said, for maybe perhaps the position of those who say he's a kafir are correct, and you'll be in hellfire forever. He said, if you try to say the position of those who say that he will be in the hellfire temporarily, do you want to be in the hellfire for a day that's understood of 50,000 years or more? Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? So these affairs are not to be played with. A person doesn't play with a pillar of his religion. You don't play with a pillar of your religion. You might play people play other games, which is dangerous, but salat is something that is the most gravest of danger. This is something we should emphasize to our children and our wives, and put emphasis on it. And not to be lenient with it. It's something that's tremendous. For in this regard, ya ma'ashal ikhwa, this is what we're saying about the shafa'ah, the Messenger of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam. And this is what Shaykh al-Islam was mentioning here. That what shafa'at has been negated is what in the Quran is that which is in it polytheism. Meaning that it's either what? Sought from other than Allah, or the people who it's been negated from is the people of kufr or shirk. And if it's sought from other than Allah. For if a person seeks a shafa'ah from the other than Allah, he will be deprived of the shafa'ah. Because it's shirk. And that is what the Messenger of Allah, that's what Allah Ta'ala negates in His book. In the context of the ayahs that you'll find in the Quran, where Allah negates it. And we said that the ayat where Allah affirms it is in its proper place. Likewise for the people of who? Of Tawheed. For Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, when he asked the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam this, there's one narration that says that my shafa'ah is the one who said La ilaha illallah sincerely from his heart. Meaning that his heart agreed with his tongue. That's another first meaning of the hadith, if you look in your books. That his heart works in accordance with his what? With his tongue. Who's removed from that, everyone? The hypocrites. As they said it what? Taqiyatan. Taqiyatan. They said it only to protect themselves. Not out of what? Sincerity. Right or wrong? As the hypocrites said it, as they say tuqiyatan or taqiyatan. To use it out of protection. Not out of what? Out of sincerity. So, based upon that statement, that removes the munafiqeen. The munafiqeen are what? Are removed. Because they did not say it sincerely from their what? They did not say it sincerely from their heart. So the munafiqeen are removed. And also likewise those who do not show off and those who do not want to earn a type of what? A type of praise. I wanted to read that, I'll get that later. As we know that Ibn al-Qayyim had said about riya and showing off, of talking about minor polytheism, but he was talking about how still polytheism. He says, and it's a tremendous statement by Ibn al-Qayyim that he mentioned and said, he says, وَهَذَا الشِّرْكِ الَّذِي لَا سَاحِلَ لَهُ وَهَذَا الْبَحْرَ الَّذِي لَا سَاحِلَ لَهُ وَقَلَّ مَنْ يَنْجُو مِنْهُ إِلَّا مَنْ نَجَّاهُ اللَّهُ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى مِنْهُ. He said in the profound statement, he said that the type of shirk of showing off and trying to win praise, he said that is a sea that has no coast to it. What does he mean by that? Meaning it's something serious that there's real small people that only will what? Be saved from it. Of showing off and doing things from worldly praise. He says, وَقَلَّ مَن يَنْجُو مِنْهُ. Very small few people who be what? Saved from falling into it. Of showing off. And doing an action of good and for win of praise. And doing it for other than Allah. Tabarak wa ta'ala. He says, it's very small. قَلَّ مَن يَنْجُو مِنْهُ. So this type of riyah, as we know, also is from the what? That's something that will taint your ikhlas. As we know, Allah Ta'ala will also expose them on the day of resurrection, as we know. Right, everyone? as everything that was in the chest, everything that was concealed, will all be known on the day of resurrection. All the intentions, all the ulterior motives, all the evil that was intended, all the khiyana, betrayal, mistrust, and perfidiousness, if you want to say, that was done in this world will all be exposed. All of it. Everything that's in the chest of what people have intended, all will be what? Laid out. Right? Fine. So now this being the case, if a person who's been showing off, likewise we know will be also likewise what? Exposed. We know the hadith of Abu Hurairah of the 3 men who will be what? Brought on the day of resurrection, and Allah Ta'ala will say, you lie. You only did that in order to what? To say that you was a brave individual, and it was said in the dunya, and then will be what? He'll be commanded, be dragged on his face and thrown in what? Thrown in the hellfire. Then the man who also sought knowledge and recited it until it was said that he's a scholar and he was said he was a reciter, he says, and I did it for you until Allah Ta'ala says, كذبت ولكنك قرأت القرآن يقال هو قارئ وتعلمت العلم ليقال هو عالم وقد قيل فأمر به فسحب على وجهه ثم ألقي في النار. He says, Allah Ta'ala will say, you lie. You only read the Quran to say that he's a reciter. You only learn knowledge to say that he's knowledgeable. And it was said, and he'll be commanded, he'll be dragged on his face, and then he'll be thrown into hell. Then it'll be mentioned of the person, as we know in the hadith, as it says, the man who spent his sadaqah. And he was very generous. And he spent his money in the cause of Allah, all the ujuhul khair, of all the ways of good, until it says in the narration what? He says, and I spent sadaqah for your way, in your cause. And then Allah Ta'ala will say, كذبت ولكن تصدقت ليقال هو جواد وقد قيل. He says, well, you only did that so it could be said in this world that he's what? He's generous. It was said, and he'll be commanded, and he'll be what? Dragged on his face and thrown in the what? In the hellfire. All this is to show everyone that everyone's ulterior motive and what they conceal in their chests and in their hearts all will be what? Exposed. Day of resurrection is something severe, everyone. All these narrations puts everything in its reality. It's a severe. For preparation for that day, it takes jihad. It takes a struggle. It takes focus. And it takes tawfiq from Allah. Tawfiq in asking and begging Allah to what? To give you tawfiq to turn your heart in preparation for it. Because that's the reality that's coming at all of us. We see how fast these days are going by. I still can't believe to this day I'm in my 40s. It just seemed like yesterday I was 17 years old. I was like, where did the years go? I'm almost in my 40s. I can't believe I'm in my 40s. And truly, honestly, I'm surprised I made it this far. I thought I'd been dead years ago. Truly, honestly, I thought I'd been dead years ago. But, alhamdulillah, by the fadl of Allah and His mercy, Allah Ta'ala bestows mercy upon me, and I ask Allah to continue to bestow His mercy upon all of us to finish it in a manner that's good, and to finish our days in this world in something that's good in preparation for the hereafter, that's coming. So all these narrations that we read is preparation for the hereafter. So Allah Ta'ala has clearly mentioned this in the clear, authentic sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And these tremendous, profound statements of Ahl Ilm, and from them is Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah and Ibn al-Qayyim. I'll read what Ibn al-Qayyim had mentioned and said after I read these hadith. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said that my shafa'ah is the one who said La ilaha illallah sincerely from his heart. Meaning that his tongue agrees with his heart, and they're in accordance with, and they're working with each other, which is Sahih Muslim. There's another narration that the Prophet ﷺ said, لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ دَعْوَةٌ مُسْتَجَابَةٌ, that every prophet will have an answered dua, or da'wah mustajaba. He says, فَتَعَجَّلْ كُلُّ نَبِيٍّ دَعْوَةً. He said that every prophet hastened for their call to be, or their invocation to be what? Answered. He said, however, أَنَا اِخْتَبَأْتُ دَعْوَتِي شَفَاعَةً لِأُمَّتِي يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. However, I concealed my da'wah. I concealed my what? My invocation as an intercession for my ummah on the day of resurrection. So the message of Allah had mentioned and said that the da'wah, the call that he invoked Allah Ta'ala with, will be answered on the day of resurrection, which will be the shafa'ah for his ummah. Now, and this is what he says, alayhi salatu wasalam. فَهِيَ نَائِلَةٌ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهِ مَنْ مَاتَ لَا يُشْرِكُ بِاللَّهِ شَيْئًا. He said, for verily the one who will attain it is the one who dies and he's not setting up any partners with Allah Ta'ala. You'll find that Ahl Ilm have mentioned and said in this regard, they said that the shahadatayn, meaning that you say it, He says, number one, عَالِمًا بِمَعْنَاهَا. عَالِمًا بِمَعْنَاهَا. That you have to know the meaning of it. And عَامِلًا بِمُقْتَضَاهَا. And you have to also work in accordance with it. So it's not enough that you utter it. So also, you have to what? Have knowledge of its meaning. Have knowledge of its conditions. Have knowledge of what negates it, what nullifies it. And also come forth with the actions that are in accordance with it. So knowing its meanings and knowing its conditions, knowing what it necessitates, knowing all the different aspects of worship of what to unify Allah in, and also what negates it, and working action in accordance with it. That's all of uttering La ilaha illallah sincerely from your heart. So it's not just saying it with your heart, but knowing what it means. Having knowledge of what it means, its conditions, the different aspects of worship where it applies, and also what nullifies it and will render it fruitless, and working in accordance with it. As we talked about before, that the conditions of La ilaha illallah are how many? 7. Some say 8. But all of them are what? That's correct. What are the conditions of La ilaha illallah? For example, 1, knowledge. 2, sincerity. 3, yaqeen. 4, truthfulness. 5, submissiveness. 6, I think you already said truthfulness. Mahabba, hub, jayyid. Last one. You said that. When you give me some, what did I do? I accept it. Acceptance. Jayyid. Those are all the poetry, and there's 3 types of poetry you can memorize. Pick any one, you'll have them memorized of all the shurut of La ilaha illallah. I'll discuss that Friday. طيب. From them is the poetry, as it says, وَفِي الشَّهَادَةِ عِلْمُ الْقَلْبِ مُشْتَرَطٌ يَقِينٌ قَدْ انْقِيَادٌ قَبُولٌ لَيْسَ يُفْتَقَدُ إِخْلَاصُكَ الصِّدْقُ فِيهَا مَعَ مَحَبَّتِهَا كذا الولاء والبراء فيها لها عمد فيه توالي أولي التقوى تنصرهم وكل أعدائه إن لهم العدو. Anyway, those 7 in which is coming upon one to know those 7 conditions. Some of them say 8 because they say wala wal bara also enters in it. But anyway, those 7 conditions also likewise is binding upon every Muslim to know, so he can have and say this testimony upon yaqeen and knowledge and acceptance and not any reluctance and not any hesitation and submissiveness. All of these things helps you and aids you in purifying your shahada. So brothers and sisters, all of this is a jihad. Jihad not of fighting and killing innocent people. That's not what we're speaking about. The jihad of purifying your shahada is a tremendous jihad before you meet Allah. The greatest of jihad upon the mu'min and the Salafi and the Sunni these days is purifying his shahada before he meets Allah. Not only just by learning Tawheed and coming to class, but also staying away from polytheism that will nullify it and what will render your testimony weak and incomplete. Not just invalid. Invalid is shirk. But also that will render your testimony tainted somewhat, which is of sins. It's the sins will allow your shahada to be tainted. It's like as if you gave an agreement, but it's somewhat incomplete. It's somewhat, as you want to say, tainted. So the purification of the shahada is a tremendous fight with the human being that he wants to set out to purify his shahada before he dies. There's the ultimate jihad for any human being for any human being. For the shahada, for Allah Ta'ala is the only one that can aid the abd and purify his shahada before he dies. Purifying the shahada is something that is tawfiq from Allah, in which Allah Ta'ala only gives tawfiq to certain human beings. And if you see the darkness of what we live in these days, of how many people go astray, you will see the estrangement and the ghurba of who Allah only chooses, a few people who will truly attain that level. Especially people who have ilm, who have gone astray based upon knowledge, which is scary. To see that not only them are saved, but it's truly only for people who are truly sincere for Allah Ta'ala. As the true sincerity are the only ones of the people who will be saved. Because it's scary to hear that people who have ilm and people who recite these ayat and still fall into something that takes their shahada. It's scary and it's terrifying. And that's the meaning of the ayat in which Allah Ta'ala says in his book about Shaitan had promised of who he was going to mislead, and Shaitan who gave an exception. So even Shaitan himself said, verily I'm going to lead them all astray, illa ibadika minhumul mukhlasin. He said the only people who will be saved from me is the only servants that are mukhlasin. The only servants that will be saved from me in my plot is those who truly have ikhlas. No more, no less. Which is for the most what? One of the most hardest affairs upon the abd is to stay sincere and to do things for Allah and make sure he's fulfilling all Allah's rights and the rights of the people. It is the most hardest of affairs for a human being. And the only aid you can have is from your Lord, Ta'ala, to give you tawfiq, so you can be saved from all the people who are deviating these days. And the only one who can be saved is the one who has sincerity for Allah. As they're the only ones who will be saved from the deviants and the oceans and the waves of who being swept from the currents of fitan of these days and times. For verily, ya ma'ashal ikhwat, these are the only people that will be saved, is the people of ikhlas, and they would be the people who will attain the shafa'ah of the Prophet ﷺ by this tremendous honor, for not only for the shafi', but for the mashfu' lahu, for the one who's being interceded for. As Ibn al-Qayyim had mentioned and said about the most greatest of reasons for one to attain the shafa'ah, listen to what he says, Ibn al-Qayyim. That he said, تأمل هذا الحديث كيف جعل أعظم الأسباب التي تنال بها شفاعته صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو تجريد التوحيد وعكس ما عند المشركين أن الشفاعة تنال باتخاذهم شفعاء وعبادتهم وموالاتهم. Now listen to what Ibn al-Qayyim goes on to say. He said from the greatest of asbab, from the greatest of the reasons of what one will attain the shafa'ah by, he says it's by purifying your monotheism. Tajdeed al-Tawheed, which is purifying your monotheism. And he said, in contrast of what the mushrikeen, of what they're upon, he said, for verily, their shafa'ah, they think, is attained by taking the shufa'ah, those who are mediators and intercessors, and worshiping them, and also taking them as awliya. Listen to what he goes on to say. فَقَلَبَ النَّبِيُّ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ مَا فِي زَعْمِهِمْ الْكَاذِبِ. He says, for verily the message of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم, that he destroyed of what they have in their lying and in their claim. وَأَخْبَرَ أَنَّ سَبَبَ الشَّفَاعَةِ تَجْدِيدُ التَّوْحِيدِ. He said that the message of Allah said that the reason for the shafa'ah is to purify monotheism. And in that case, Meaning that that Allah will give permission for the shafi', for the one the intercessor to intercede. And this shows the ignorance of the mushrik, that they don't understand Aqidah. Because the message of Allah said that the only one who attained the shafa'ah is the one who purified Tawheed. So in this is a refutation against the mushrikeen and those who are upon Sufiya, who truly do not understand that the message of Allah in this is a particular refutation against them. Because he said those who truly purified the monotheism of Allah is the one who attained the shafa'ah. He said, this shows, he said, وَمِن جَهْلِ الْمُشْرِكِ اِعْتِقَادَهُ. He says, and from the ignorance of the mushrik is his belief to take a wali or someone so-called as a mediator will intercede for them based upon their disbelief with Allah. Not realizing that it is only for the khawas, from Ahl al-Ikhlas. It is only for the people of sincerity. So you'll find that Ibn al-Qayyim had even mentioned this is to show that how they truly do not understand these texts. Because if they truly understood it, they will leave alone the type of shafa'ah that they're committing of polytheism, not only with just the mushrikun or the polytheists of today, and even some of the Muslimun, especially those who engross in Sufiya. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Is it clear? Jay. I think that was the last narration, wasn't it? And then they have the Masail. I thought we'll do that Wednesday. طيب, any questions about the lesson? تفضل. Are you talking about fighting the desires of jihad al-nafs? Even though that hadith is weak, when he said that we would turn to the bigger jihad al-akbar, which is jihad al-nafs. No doubt, jihad al-nafs is talking about fighting your desires. But purifying your shahada is just not fighting your desires. Purifying your shahada starts with learning ilm, learning knowledge. All that takes time and patience. A lot of the Muslims think they're going to reach a high level of iman based upon ignorance. That can never happen. You cannot reach a high level with Allah upon ignorance, ever. A lot of people walking in the street, I pray my five, I'm good. Not if you're ignorant. There's no way you can reach a high level of status with Allah except by knowledge. Allah Ta'ala praised the people who worship Him upon insight and knowledge. They combine ibadah along with what? Upon with knowledge. That's part of jihad. Jihad is of seeking knowledge. And the jihad of these days, as some of the Salaf used to say, they said the jihad of these days is the jihad of just clinging to the sunnah. It's the jihad of these days. Because if you look to the darkness of how the Muslim who's truly upon was correct, to all the darkness that you are seeing amongst what the Muslims are upon these days, you'll think you are very strange to what they're doing and what they're upon. The jihad of these days is clinging to the sunnah, and to clinging what's correct, and holding on to your beliefs, and holding on to what's correct is the jihad of these days. So not only does jihad start with just fighting your desires, number one, to fight your desires to want to seek ilm, to seek knowledge, to fight your nafs, to fight your laziness, to fight your preference for relaxation and comfort, to go seek ilm. Then the jihad, like we say, to purify your niyyah. That takes jihad. Jihad to fight first fight your laziness. Then jihad to fight your what? To fight your niyyat for it to wants to change, or I want to seek it for some type of worldly benefit. Then you're trying to fight your nafs and fight your heart from not allowing shaitan to get in your niyyah. To keep your intentions sincere for Allah. Then you have the fight, like we said, then you have that, then after that is fighting your what? Your desires. So all those are things that the only one that can aid you in that is Allah. That's it. That's why we constantly in our salat make a dua to Allah. A lot of people think when we read Surah Al-Fatiha, if you really truly recited Surah Al-Fatiha, you will know that this is what you make a dua to Allah for. You asking Allah to allow me to seek knowledge, to be knowledgeable in my religion, to give me what I need to be knowledgeable. This is what you're saying in Surah Al-Fatiha. First of all, you're asking Allah to keep me upon Tawheed, keep me away from shirk. You're asking Allah to not make you amongst the Christians who worship Allah upon ignorance. Then you're asking Allah, don't make me like the Jews who have knowledge, but they what? They don't work by it. They don't know, they won't work by it. They have the ilm, but they don't work by it. And they went astray as a result of it. Or the curse of Allah came and the wrath of Allah fell upon them as a result of it. Who are those who truly were saved? Those who had knowledge and those who what? Acted upon it. That's what you're saying every time when you recite Surah Al-Fatiha. But how many times do we see people recite it and Allah doesn't give them tawfiq? How many of the people we know recite Surah Al-Fatiha maybe 10 times a day, and you'll still see them upon shirk from the Sufis? Don't the Sufis recite Surah Al-Fatiha every day? And they've been deprived of its tawfiq. They still commit shirk. You recite Surah Al-Fatiha. Surah Al-Fatiha, which is the head of what lays down Tawheed and Ikhlas, the sincerity of Allah. And they recite it every day and they still commit shirk and bid'ah. Did they get tawfiq in it? No tawfiq. They recite the Quran from beginning to end. We know that the Quran from beginning to end is laying down the Tawheed of Allah. From beginning to end. And they still practice shirk and bid'ah. They was given tawfiq in it? No. How many Muslims do we know recite Surah Al-Fatiha every day? Come to the masjid, they don't want to come and learn no knowledge. You tell them, learn the ilm. You have to learn, you have to sit, you have to try. You have to now fight your nafs. You have to come, want to have desire, to want to learn your religion. This is what Allah loves. Allah loves that you worship Him upon knowledge and insight. This is something Allah loves. I don't need to take knowledge from you. Who are you? I can read my books at my house. And you see them, and if you hear, they be the main ones that say some crazy statements. Because you sit in your house thinking you know everything. From that, what you say, these type of people, then what? They also have been what? Deprived of tawfiq. That's what I'm saying, everyone. All these affairs, it takes tawfiq from Allah. Tawfiq from Allah to really purify your shahada is hard work. It is hard work. And the only people who are saved is those who truly make dua and sujood to Allah to ask Allah to aid them. They're the only ones who are saved. Tafadal. Absolutely. No doubt. Yeah, I know a lot of people now, for some odd reason, I don't know where they get that from. It's like Hajj is on the last list. They rather prefer to go to Cancun or they go to Jamaica. But when the Hajj should be the first thing on your list, when you got the opportunity to go to it. And not only Hajj, Umrah is obligatory once in your life. A lot of people don't know that. Umrah is also obligatory once in your life. Umrah and Hajj is once, it's obligatory once. A lot of people don't know that, but there is a hadith says that Umrah is obligatory once in your life. Right. Anything else about the lesson? About the lesson, anyone? So we can stop. طيب هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه سبحانك اللهم بحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك